makers of better things for better living through chemistry. Nearly everything in our daily lives is improved by chemistry, from transportation to the clothes we wear. Chemistry helps bring us better food, makes our homes more beautiful, more comfortable, helps protect our health, and adds to the enjoyment of our leisure time. Now, tonight's story on the DuPont Theater.
Yes, Mrs. Spooner.
Gerald, why must you always look so pitiful every time I come to have harsh words with you?
Oh, please continue, Mrs. Spooner. If I'm not presentable, it's because I was inspired to write late into the night. I intended to finish before dawn, but unfortunately, I ran out of paper.
That's what I came to talk to you about. Don't you ever stop to think who pays for that light you burn all night long?
Oh, I told you I would pay extra.
When?
Well, as soon as I get my next acceptance from the publisher. But first I must finish my story. And I can't finish the story without paper. And in order to purchase paper, I must turn again for a short period to letter writing. Mrs. Spooner...
Don't you look at me, Mr. Gerald. At 4 cents a letter, I can't afford to send any more. No, you go out and find yourself some other letter-writing customers. And while you're about it, why don't you go down to the docks and apply for a steady job on one of Mr. Yeager's steamboats?
Mrs. Spooner, I am an author, desperately in need of paper. Must remember not to bend down. Must remember not to bend down. Thank heaven, at least I have one good coat. Every author should have at least one good coat. Every author should have at least one old coat, too. Oh, Captain Fenstraw! Captain Fenstraw.
Hello there, Gerald.
I was just going to pass by your house.
You wouldn't find me there.
So I see.
I have just taken full-time residence at my cabin aboard the Ohio Gazelle until my wife's mother removes her meddling presence from our home. Good day, Gerald.
Captain Fenstraw, what about your correspondence? Surely you must have a letter or two to write.
No, I'm in no mood to write to anyone. Oh, how happy life could be if only I could rid myself of the intruder in my home. that nosy tyrant.
Well, then why don't you write her a letter? A nice, calm letter explaining your feeling.
Yes, why not? Here's your fee in advance. Goodbye, my boy.
Mr. Gerald.
Oh, good afternoon, Miss Myrtle.
Mrs. Taffy.
Charles, how opportune. I have 2 letters for you to write. I would write them myself, but they're especially important.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Teffy. I came in to purchase a needle.
Mrs. Teffy, indeed. After 2 years of writing my most personal letters, don't you think you could call me Lucinda? Don't you agree, Myrtle?
Oh, I certainly do. Yes, ma'am.
About the needle, Lucinda.
That's better. Only one?
Only one, and perhaps a bit of thread.
Oh, certainly. What color?
Well, something that would match these trousers.
Oh, so that's why you've been standing there like one of the royal guard. Is it that serious?
It's most embarrassing.
Well, we'll put an end to your embarrassment. Charles, go back to my sitting room immediately and remove them.
If you'll just give me the needle and thread, I...
Well, you shouldn't do this kind of thing. It's a woman's work. Now, do as I say. And while you're about it, send out that frock coat, too. It could stand a bit of mending.
My frock coat does not need mending, thank you.
Oh, dear. Did I say the wrong thing?
Mm-hmm. I'll patch her, Mrs. Duffy.
Indeed you won't. Although I've been a widow for 3 years, I haven't forgotten how to patch a man's clothing. The message in each of these letters is the same. They're both letters of rejection to 2 young gentlemen who wish to marry me.
The same as before?
The same as before.
To both of them?
Both of them. Well, now I'll fix us some tea and lunch.
Lunch? Well, no, thank you, Lucinda. I haven't time.
Oh, but you look hungry. I mean, I know how engrossed you become in your work, Charles, and you forget food.
I never forget food. Oh, how would this be? It is with regret, sir, that I must reject your proposal of marriage due to a previous commitment.
Fine.
You know, Lucinda, there's something I've been wanting to ask you for a long time.
Really, Charles? What is it?
How and where you met so many titled gentlemen and high-ranking officers.
Oh.
I realize it is a presumptuous question, but, well, you certainly have been passing up some brilliant opportunities.
Well, that's for me to decide.
Oh, naturally, if you don't want to remarry, then you don't.
What makes you think I don't want to remarry?
Well, all of these letters I've written over the past 2 years.
Then perhaps these had best be the last you write for me. You may finish them at your convenience at your lodgings and leave them with Myrtle.
Oh, I'm truly sorry if I offended you, Lucinda. Well, you know, I can't afford to offend such a good client as you.
Oh, Charles, sometimes you're too much for me. I guess that's because you're a genius.
No, I'm no genius. I'm just a busy man, a penny author. Pamphlets, articles, romances, memorial verses, and other people's letters.
You are a genius, but you know what you need?
Paper. That's what I always need, paper.
You need a home and someone to care for you. Boy, you're thoughtful and kind and good, and you need someone to love you. Someone, well, for instance, to button your vest properly.
It was very dark in my lodgings when I dressed this morning.
Is that your best shirt?
Shirt? Oh, yes. What's wrong with it?
Oh, I didn't say anything was wrong with it, but perhaps you can use these. I'm sure they'll fit. At least your trousers are the same size as his.
Whose?
Oh, they belong to Teppy, my late husband. They're quite useless to me. Please take them.
No, thank you. Not that I mind old clothes. As a matter of fact, I buy most of mine secondhand, but I wouldn't enjoy any Teppy old clothes. As you suggested, I think I'll finish your letters in my lodgings. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Why, if it isn't Mr. Gerald, the great writer. And what are you doing honoring our poor shop at this late hour?
I have a half-finished story the publishers are pressing me to finish, and I need some cheap foolscap. 36 cents worth.
Well, it's cheaper by the ream.
Yes, I know, but my cash on hand is 36 cents.
Oh, I'm going to sell you paper, but I'm not going to sell you foolscap. I'm going to sell you something a lot better and a lot cheaper. Will you excuse me a minute, please?
Thank you.
Here it is. Look at this.
But it's been used.
Only the first few pages. But look at the rest of it. It's all blank. Somebody started the records of a business and went bankrupt. You see, there's enough paper in here to last you for a long time. I tell you, you can have this beautiful thing for 36 cents.
36 cents?
Aye.
But it's Moroccan bound.
Aye. But a used journal is a spoiled journal. Good enough only for the paper.
Where did you find it?
Oh, with some other trash up at an odd paper sale on Broadway.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you.
Good night, Mr. Gerald.
Good night.
Dear Charles, we must straighten out this inexcusable situation which has arisen between us. Possibly I could come to your lodgings tomorrow, say at noon, so we could talk this thing out. We could sit around and chat and perhaps have a bite to eat and become good friends again.
Bite to eat?
Ordinarily, a lady doesn't visit a gentleman's lodgings, but we're each mature and level-headed, and I see no harm in it. Do you?
Yes, I do. What are we going to have for a bite to eat? Bean soup.
We'll return to our play right after this message from DuPont. Gracious, comfortable home life is becoming more and more a part of the way all of us live. This is the home and the family of a typical employee at the DuPont Pigments plant in Newark, New Jersey. Let's call him George. There have been a lot of changes in George's standard of living in the past 10 years, and many of these changes are due to changes in his job. His pay is higher, he has more leisure time, and his job has become much easier. What has made the difference? Well, you see, George makes chrome yellow pigment, which is used to give color to paints, printing inks, plastics, leather, and lots of other things. But let's have George tell us himself.
Well, the best way I know to tell you how my job has changed is to show you how much more I can produce today than I did 10 years ago. In 1947, all I could turn out was 100 pounds an hour. Today, I can turn out 750 pounds an hour, more than 7 times as much. With so much emphasis on color, there's a greater demand for pigment. DuPont had to make more. That's all right with me, because to step up production, DuPont had to put in a lot of new equipment. That made my job a lot easier. You know, in the old days, it was a real workout for a man's muscles. We made all our pigments a batch at a time, lifting 50-pound bags of raw materials by hand, dumping them into metal drums. After adding water and steam, we stirred the mixture with long wooden paddles. Then we lifted the 30-gallon metal drums to the vat opening and poured in the mixture. We had to repeat this step 4 times for every batch of pigment. And all in all, we lifted about 6,000 pounds every day. Later, we had to shovel the wet pigment into flat trays, about 30 pounds to a tray, and spread it out evenly, so the trays could be wheeled away to the drying ovens. Now let's see how most of this exhausting hand labor has been eliminated. DuPont worked about 5 years putting in this new process. It cost a lot of money. You see how much cleaner and more centralized everything is? We have to make more calculations and watch the instruments carefully, but it sure saves a lot of muscle. And the pigment we make in this new process is a lot better than it used to be. Because we produce more, we earn more, and we have more time off. Anytime a company improves the way of doing a job, it improves things for the man who does it.
That's the way increased productivity helps all of us. The more we produce, the better we live. And to produce more, a large company must make big investments in improving the tools of production. That's what DuPont, like most other large American businesses, does to bring you more and more of DuPont's better things for better living through chemistry. And now back to the DuPont Theater.
$0.85. 85. But only a month ago, I bought it from you for $2.
Without this enormous ink spot.
Very well, Mr. Quinley, 85 cents. And would you please hurry? I have to shop for a bite to eat. I think I did exceedingly well with 85 cents. A ring of liver pudding, a wedge of cheese, butter, bread, a sack of cherries, and a bottle of mineral water. Mrs. Spooner, the table is magnificent.
Almost as romantic as some of those stories you write. I beg your pardon, miss.
Well, your bachelor lodgings seem quite popular with the ladies today.
Oh, that was just Mrs. Spooner, my landlady.
Just put these bundles somewhere for the time being while I unpack this bite of food.
Oh, but Lucinda, I've already prepared. Roast duck. Jam.
Wild strawberry. I made it myself. I even picked the berries. Potato salad. Do you like potato salad, Charles?
I like potatoes in almost any form.
Good. And a bottle of mineral water. You know, Charles, your profession fascinates me, in spite of the outrageous hours that you work. Mrs. Spooner, or someone, should look in on you at all times to make sure you take proper care of yourself. Now, that coat, for instance, it's a hideous sight.
Well, Lucinda, I consider that a very personal comment.
Of course, it's personal. I intended it to be personal. And I won't do you any good to go up in the air like a rocket. I came here to argue with you. There's no need for you to dress the way you do.
Oh, yes, there is.
Not when I have a few of Mr. Teffy's things. there's nothing shameful about accepting a few shirts, and you know it. Would I ask you to do anything shameful?
Oh, of course not.
But here.
Thank you, Lucinda, but...
Do you like them?
Yes.
Well, for goodness sake, say so.
I think they're very nice.
That's better. Now we both feel much better, don't we?
It seems your spirits are higher than mine, but then I'm much too well fed to protest.
And what do you think about these?
Well, they're very nice, too. Very solid and impressive. Mr. Teffy had excellent taste.
And the same sizes as you. A most remarkable coincidence. Now, tell me about the new story you plan to write.
Oh, I've already started. I hear it in this ledger. Do you like the title?
The fearsome adventures of a ship captain's daughter, 10 years captive among the Amazon cannibals, and her hideous wedding feast. How thrilling. Where do you get such exciting ideas?
I was thinking of bean soup at the time.
Oh.
No, my real inspiration was this ledger.
It's beautiful. So richly bound.
Oh, and you can see that someone has already started to use this to make entries of purchases made in many strange cities.
Such neat, well-kept accounts, too.
Yes, it must have been a really big business that went bankrupt.
No, there's something funny here.
Funny?
Ledgers are records, the most important part of a business.
Well, if you say so.
You could say they are the business.
Naturally.
And when a business goes bankrupt, they are impounded, not put up for sale.
Come to think of it, that printer was a little shifty-eyed when he brought it out.
I'll wager this business isn't bankrupt at all. That it's still going full blast and is badly crippled by the loss of this book.
And I've ruined an important document with my fearsome adventure.
Not at all. Just get it back where it belongs.
But how do I know where it belongs?
Well, we'll find that out where you bought it.
We?
Yes. I'll go with you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. McCann. This is my friend, Mrs. Teffy.
I'm happy to make your acquaintance, Mrs. McCann.
Mrs. McCann, about this ledger.
I'm busy. Go away. This ledger was stolen, wasn't it, Miss McCann?
Mrs. McCann, the beans cooked up very nicely. I tossed in a bacon rind for flavor.
Mr. Gerald, I liked you from the start, and I'm going to trust you. McCann bought that ledger from a rustabout off one of the boats of the Jaeger line. The rustabout stole the captain's carpet bag out of his cabin, sneaked it ashore. McCann bought it from him. There was this ledger in it and some clothes, but nothing valuable.
This ledger is extremely valuable. I'll introduce you to Mr. Jaeger.
I'll introduce myself, Lucinda. You're a good woman, Mrs. McCann.
But I know Mr. Jaeger personally.
Yes, I realize you did once. I recall the first letter of rejection I wrote for you was addressed to Mr. Jaeger. Come now, I'll take you to your shop and I'll attend to my business.
He's been keeping a double set of books on me. It's barratry.
I'm afraid you have me there, sir. What is barratry?
My captain has been stealing money from me. He's been robbing me with both hands. Why, this ledger is worth thousands of dollars. Now, let's see. 5% fair enough?
Well, I should say so, yes. 5% of what?
There you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There you are, my friend. Thank you.
I take no pay for an honest service.
Oh, now, I'm very weary, always overworked, always exhausted. Now, put this money in your pocket, and I'm very grateful to you.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, and, thank you. You look very nice.
Thank you. That's what you said about Teffy's shirts and shoes. But it's pleasing to hear just the same. Now, tell me what happened at the Jaeger line.
This. A reward for Mr. Jaeger. The ledger proved that Captain Fenstraw was embezzling funds that belonged to the Jaeger line.
You must invest this money wisely, Charles, so you can write without worry and never again run out of paper.
Yes. Well, perhaps you'd sell me a partnership in this place.
Charles, why?
Well, for one thing, the cellar where I live, it gets pretty wet. Perhaps I could move. Your cellar must be a great deal drier.
What's the other thing? Myrtle isn't here. There's no one here but us. What's the other thing?
I guess I get lonesome for you.
This discussion's going to be much too important to risk interruption. Now, let's go back to the sitting room. Now, about the answer to your question. All right. I'll sell your partnership in the place. Is that your way of trying to tell me that you love me?
We must take things one at a time, Lucinda. We must move slowly.
Well, you certainly do. What are you waiting for now? You're still wearing this wretched coat.
I can buy a new one.
Oh, well, that won't be necessary yet. Today I was rummaging through some of Teffy's things, and look what I found.
Lucinda, I absolutely refuse to accept any more of your first... This was Teffy's coat?
Well, certainly. You just saw me take it from the wardrobe where I've kept all his other things, his shirts and his shoes.
What about this ink stain?
Oh, never mind about that. Myrtle can get that out. She's an expert at removing spots. Now, come on, let's try it on, see if it fits.
Lena, remember what I said about one thing at a time? Darling, thank you for Teffy's coat.
You're welcome, dear.
This was a Don W. Sharp, Warren Lewis production. Next week on DuPont Theater, Kevin McCarthy stars as the reporter who found romance while searching for a mysterious signer of the Declaration of Independence. Don't miss The Last Signer. Brought to you by the DuPont Company of Wilmington, Delaware, makers of better things for better living through chemistry.